All right, somewhere around there. That'll be fine. Oh, but now I lost all my windows. Oh God, come back.
Oh dear.
It's fine. Everything is a mess. We're fine.
We're doing our best.
We are certainly trying. Hello, Alan.
Hi, Erin.
I would say how are you, but offline we just had a whole conversation about how we're like fine, but not ideal.
Yeah, everyone has those days.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone makes mistakes.
I feel like this is going down some kind of lyric or poem line that I am not picking up on because I'm not.
Are you telling
100%.
me you don't recognize the American masterpiece that is Nobody's Perfect by Hannah Montana?
No, I do not, because I am not a youth.
Wow. Next time I'll bring some Hannah Montana fan fiction, and then we can truly dive into her discography.
Must we? Is that a thing we must do?
I think it is imperative that we educate you, This podcast is for educational purposes as well.
I'm unavailable for further notice. Please leave your name and number and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Beep. This mailbox is full. Sorry.
Oh man, if that's not the truest recording, that's hilarious.
Yep.
So Erin, well, first of all, welcome back to the Fic List, everyone.
Woohoo, we're back.
We are a little worse for wear, but we're here. We're still kicking.
We should clarify that good things have happened miraculously.
Yes.
In between our last recording and now. In fact, we took a little bit of a break because we had so much pent up anxiety and feelings about the good things that happened that we just both were we gotta sit down for a minute.
We need to collectively process the trauma of the last 4 years and 5 days.
Yeah. And we wanted to take the weekend to celebrate that Joe Biden won the election, regardless of how you feel about it.
Woo!
Emotionally, people, the facts are that he won. And we're super excited about that. And then we also, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of things started crashing basically immediately after that party was over. We all were really happy for 24 hours.
Uh-huh.
And then it was okay, now everything is terrible again. And that was hard to process because we're so used to bad things just happening all the time that we've kind of been desensitized to it. And then I think we had that one moment of levity and we remembered what it was to feel joy as a collective, and then going back to being oh yeah, shit's still terrible was really hard.
Yeah, it's almost in this particular case, the day we took to celebrate was just it just hurt us more than it helped in the long run.
Yeah.
But which is really awful to stop and think about. Collectively, we have forgotten what joy feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've been reading a lot of takes, which were smart, from people who've been doing civil rights work and general sort of activism work for a long time. And they were hold tight to the moments of joy because they're fleeting and they get you through there's always pushback, and that's pretty much immediately what we fell into. And so I've been trying to follow that advice, but it's hard, guys. So I hope this episode we can just reclaim a little bit of just sort of a general joy, not necessarily political, because this doesn't really have anything to do with politics, but just a little bit of happy, fun things, because I think we need it again.
If nothing else, friends, remember, the holidays are coming. It's Christmas. It is now Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Alan, this episode is going to go out around Thanksgiving.
Your point?
Which means I technically can't sassafras you because I did tell you that you could have Christmas after Thanksgiving.
No. We said after Halloween. Don't try to sneak in a sneaky little timeline change.
I refuse to accept these facts as true.
Roll the clip.
No.
Caitlin, roll the clip.
No. Oh, we should tell the listeners at home that you finally met Caitlin because I ambushed you with her.
I met Caitlin. Thank you for saying it exactly how it was. There I was at a collective friend's socially distant birthday barbecue potluck thingy. Mm-hmm. It was also a costume party.
Which no one told me about.
It was on the Facebook post.
I don't read the Facebook post.
Well, that is your issue. I was one of 3 people that were in costume, and if anyone knows the movie Midsommar And the May Queen outfit, Google it. That is what I was wearing.
To be fair,
Minus
you
the
looked
cape.
incredible. I mean, it was wonderful.
That is very kind, and I'm very proud of it. But there I was stuffing my face with a pulled chicken sandwich, and Erin walks up with this lovely person and says, "Hey, I want you to meet Caitlin." And I was like, "Hello."
Mouth full of pulled chicken just like drops.
Truly, I was not.
You literally like, what the fuck? And I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
I was not mentally prepared, but it was an absolute joy to finally meet Caitlin. We had a great time. We had some great conversations. Mm-hmm. And now I can ask Caitlin to roll the tape.
Yeah, even though she doesn't have access to any of our recordings because she's not part of the creation process of this podcast.
She'll find a way.
But I'm sure she would roll the tape for you. She would enjoy sassafrassing me enough to help you in that endeavor. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's what I'm counting on.
Like any
I've
good
gotten
friend.
a new ally.
Yeah, like any true like ride or die friend, she's here to like sassafras the shit out of me, which is the best. I mean, that's also our friendship in a nutshell, right? Like that's how that goes.
Exactly.
Other people are not allowed to make fun of you, but I 100% am.
Exactly.
Anyway, this whole intro has nothing to do with the episode at hand. Well, actually, I retract that statement.
There we go.
This episode is about a tag that is meeting the family.
It is meeting
And
the family.
You met Caitlin. So,
Oh.
yeah, that worked out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are we the Fic List family? I love that.
We can be. Ooh, do y'all want Fic List fam? Like, should that be a thing?
We'll put it on a sticker.
I think that should be a thing.
I think I love that.
Evelyn, do you want to
Hashtag
draw
Fic List fam.
something? Anybody?
It ain't gonna be pretty. I will do it, but it ain't gonna be pretty.
If I do it, it's gonna be like a little stick figure with a smiley face that says hashtag Fic List fam in my shitty handwriting. So like, can we upgrade from that, please?
Honestly, though, I think that fashion's coming back. You know,
What, the really shitty?
like
really shitty-
intentionally not great graphic design.
I think you're just saying that to assuage my inferiority in the art world feelings, but I appreciate that you're trying to make me feel better.
It's my job.
Yeah.
It's my job.
Isn't it?
So back to our tag, meeting the family.
Yeah.
We decided last year we did Thanksgiving, and this year we wanted to do something like Thanksgiving adjacent, you know, because you think Thanksgiving. To me, I feel like there's essentially 2 holidays, maybe 3 holidays that you bring like a significant other to, like to there's a Spanish word called convivir, which is like essentially live amongst, but the word is supposed to be like, you know, you get to like enjoy being around your partner and your family, and it's that wonderful feeling. And those are Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, I would say, because New Year's has always been like a big family tradition as far as Mexican American culture goes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we thought meeting the family is a good tag for this time of year.
I agree. And also, just in general, I think a lot... Yep, I got nothing else to contribute. Continue. I was
So,
like,
Erin,
I think nothing. Head empty. Keep talking.
have you read many Meet the Family, like, fics? Because I feel like it's almost like a niche, you know? Like, you can find it, but it's usually wrapped up into larger or more obvious tags.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think I've read a lot of Meet the Family scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've read a lot of, you know, specific Meet the Family, like, fics where that was the thesis of what was happening.
Yeah.
I will say our original thought was found family. Like, we were going to do something like that. So from that perspective, I have actually read a lot more, like, I introduce my... you know, this person who's important to me to like my found family, because that's a very queer thing to do. So I think from that perspective, I've read a lot of Meet the Family stuff, but it's usually in the context of found family. We decided against that because we were also like, how are we supposed to do? That's not a tag that we're going to be able to find either.
Right.
I don't know that either one was actually easier than the other. I just think we decided that Meet the Family like was going to be easier to find. I don't know.
Yeah, I also think Found the Family lends itself a little more to like a shorter fic. Yeah, because I think the theme of found family is so like layered and nuanced that it needs a longer form fic to really expand into.
Yeah, because you have to build that found family up. Yeah. So I didn't like have a good meet the family in my back pocket. I had to find one, which is my least favorite place to be.
It's always a good week when Erin and I both have to look for a fic.
It bothers me immensely when I don't have the thing in 3,000 AO3 tags that I somehow magically don't have the tag. I'm positive I have a fic with a good meet the family scene somewhere in those tags, but it's not tagged that way because I don't think it was like the central thesis. Of course I was going to be like, I know that I have fics where like Elliot has to go meet Quentin's father. Like I know that for a fact. But those aren't meet the family fics, and also if I send Alan a magician's fic, he will punch me through Skype. So how do I do this? So I went and I had to look like a little gremlin, and I was unhappy about it, but I did it.
You did it. In fact, should we start with you since we're on the subject?
Yeah, we can. Do you mean me, what I sent you, or me talk about what you sent me? Yeah. Let's do that.
Great. So the fic that Erin sent me is called A Night Full of Romance, Serene. It is on AO3, and it is written by The Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy. It is a To All the Boys I've Loved Before fic with the Peter Kavinsky and Laura Jean ship. And the summary reads, Anonymous asked, Kavinsky at prom night and or the first time that Laura Jean introduces Peter to Margot properly. It's not creepy for me to ask to meet my little sister's boyfriend, Laura Jean. Laura Jean threw her hands up in exasperation. It is when you demand, and I quote, 5 minutes alone with him to scope out his intentions. Even Dad didn't do this. So it goes from a prompt into an excerpt summary. And it's unfortunate because there's a lovely little typo here for exasperation.
Oh, I didn't even read that. My brain was just like, it's fine. We can flip those words back or those letters back around for you. I fixed it.
So the fic, as it says in the prompt, I think that the person the Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy did a really good job in kind of marrying a prom night with meet like the elder sister prompt. I think it was done really beautifully. So the fic does start with Laura Jean kind of having a discussion with Margot, being like, I do not want to introduce you. Let's not make a big deal out of this. And Margot being like, listen, I need to do this. Like, I need to know the intentions of this boy, because she's filling in for their mom who's passed away. So I understand as an older brother. I understand where that protective, like, I should meet the people you're spending time with mentality comes from. Then you have Kitty come in and also vouch for Peter. So I have a few things. One of them being, I found it a little strange, and to be frank, I read this morning when I woke up.
Sure.
So maybe I was
we are like the pinnacle of prepared here.
We are the presidents of Procrastinators Unite tomorrow.
Yeah, I have absolutely. It took me a minute. I have absolutely no ground to sassafras you on this because I read these very late last night, but I'm just going to sassafras you anyway because, again, that's my right as your friend.
I love it. So maybe I wasn't warmed up to human interaction yet or something, but I found it, so the way that Kitty talks about Peter and like their relationship, Kitty being Laura Jean's younger sister who's in the 6th or 7th grade, was a little weird to me.
Oh, like, yeah, no, I'm with you.
They like she texts him and he texts her like a picture of him pouting so that she waits for him so that they can both watch Sailor Moon together. And I'm like, that's a little weird. That's a little weird for a junior/senior in high school to be texting a 6th, 7th grader.
Yep.
And I would like someone who has read the book to come forward and tell me if maybe they were like childhood friends and maybe like Kitty played with Peter when they were younger and maybe like it's more of a like the family element is more pronounced. But I think from the fic, I didn't get that. Like I didn't get that they used to be childhood friends or anything. So it's like a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that. I don't like stand by this fic as like the most perfect thing ever, the way that I sometimes like will lay myself on the hill. This was very much just like the thing that I chose. And I would agree that the way that this relationship is framed is it's not intentionally weird, but it does read a little weird. And in the movie, they walk a pretty good line of being like, Kitty is a very inquisitive, very sort of like super nosy, inserts herself into like Laura Jean's life in a way that is probably more forward than would be appropriate in real life. It's exaggerated for the purposes of the film.
Right.
And Peter does have to like win over Kitty in order to like get to actually win over Laura Jean, because Laura Jean puts so much value in her family.
Yeah.
So I think that just got translated weird in this fic, and it's not reading with the same sort of intention.
Yeah.
As like with that back thing. And you probably still haven't seen this movie, right?
Actually, I watched it last night.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I know. So
Very
she's
proud
coming
of
in
you.
with knowledge.
For like the first time.
Absolutely rude. Rude and churlish. Inconsiderate.
I don't care. No, but anyway, I mean, I think if you've watched this movie recently, then I think you can either agree or disagree with me on that. But I think that was probably what it was attempting and just didn't quite hit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. So yeah, the fic starts out with Margot trying to get Laura Jean to introduce her to Peter as her boyfriend, and Kitty coming to Peter's defense and being like, but look, this is him, like, you know, he's really cool and stuff. And Laura Jean finally being like, fine, I'll ask. And she asked Peter, and Peter's like, yeah, I'd love to. Kind of skimming. Peter comes to dinner with the Song Covey clan, and it's lovely. And he immediately wins over Margot because apparently they have similar music tastes, and all goes well, and we love it. It was very cute. I shouldn't gloss over the actual meeting of the family, because that is the whole theme.
It's fine.
But it's very like, it's adorable because Peter is like actually putting, like, he wears a nicer shirt and he's like super nervous, and he gets to the door and Kitty's like, you should actually do something about your hair. And Peter says, oh, I forgot. I knew there was something I was forgetting. Yeah, so the meeting the family goes well. I mean, the advantage here for Peter is that he has known them. I think it feels very small town. Like, even the movie, like, everyone kind of knows their neighbors and stuff, so they kind of, they already knew him, and it was an easy win, I will say.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Laura Jean and Peter definitely knew each other when they were younger, because they had that whole thing about Jen hates Laura Jean because Laura Jean and Peter like kissed at an 8th grade party. That whole like shtick and Laura Jean was like, it literally means nothing, like we were children. And I mean, okay, that was like 2 years ago maybe for them, but Laura Jean's like, it literally doesn't matter. And Jen is like, it will always matter. Like, it will
always matter.
Because Jen's a bitch, but you know, whatever.
Right. I watched this with a friend, and I was like, she needs to get over it. And a friend was like, but you tell me, if you were in 7th grade and your friend kissed your crush, wouldn't you have reacted the same way? And I'm like, some points are made. Some points were made. Would I have carried it into high school? No, because I'm not a hateful person, but I understand.
First of all, I don't believe you for a second. I think you would still know that person's name, date of birth, and social security number.
I would, but I would not antagonize them.
Second of all, I might be too asexual for this question, because I was like, I did not have a crush in 7th grade. So it would have been fine, because I was just like out there living my life, probably reading emo fan fiction on Quizilla at the time. That was probably what I was doing.
Love Quizilla.
Reading
Rip
like
in peace, Quizilla.
Panic at the Disco / anyway.
So preparations for prom are underway. It's really cute. You have these scenes with Margot and Peter, like first the corsage, and then Margot like calling right before to ask if he has the plan, and Peter being like, yes, I have thought about everything within an inch of its life. Like, here is the itinerary, and we're all set. And there's a lovely scene where he comes in. This really, now it's just a prom fic, and we love a good prom fic. Laura Jean comes down in a beautiful dress. Peter Kavinsky is... I also don't know why I insist on saying his full name. I think because Laura Jean has 2 names, and I just feel like Peter Kavinsky should have 2.
I think she also refers to him as Peter Kavinsky all the time in the movie. So,
good.
You know how sometimes there are just people that have full names? Like, you just call them by their full name.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a thing that happens. It's like, you're just a full name person. I don't know what to tell you.
A full name person. I love that. So yeah, so Peter is like speechless when she comes in, pins the corsage. It's lovely. And they go to the Waffle House. Chris tries to talk them into like hang out at the Waffle House instead of going to prom. they're like, nope, we're going to prom. They go to prom, and as they get there, as they're parking, it starts to rain. And it's unfortunate. Oh my god, I missed... sorry, I'm looking at the fic as I go. I missed the part where, as Peter Kavinsky is, like, admiring how Laura Jean looks, and after he puts the corsage on, he pulls out a piece of paper and asks for a pen and writes Laura Jean a note that says, "You look beautiful, love you, Mina." It's a very sweet way of saying I love you, and a really lovely callback to the film and book.
Yeah, that's a nice little like canon touch.
Yeah. So now back to prom. They've parked. It starts to rain, and Peter laughs like almost losing his shit because he's like, "Of course I didn't look at the weather. Of course." Which is so funny. I love the idea of someone trying so hard to make an evening perfect. And then, I mean, obviously you can try to plan for everything, but it doesn't always work out that way. So that was sweet. And they run to the gym under his like suit jacket, and then they kiss, and that's the end of the fic. It was lovely.
Yep.
So let me look at my notes.
We love notes.
We love some notes. There was not many.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of notes for these either, but I have noticed recently, I don't know about you, but my memory is just like shot now.
Yeah.
Like it's just bad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't just regurgitate stuff anymore. Like I have to write things down now.
Yeah. 2020's taken its toll.
I was like, am I old or is it 2020? Yeah. It's like, or is this like...
No, I fully believe it's 2020.
Yeah, the emotional carnage of 2020 has just rendered my brain a little bit less useful than it was before.
So I felt like... I feel slightly bad about this. I felt like the grammar was a little strange in places, and I felt like it threw off the rhythm of the fic for me a few times. So in particular, there's this paragraph near the beginning when it's still the conversation between Margot and Laura Jean, and I'll read it to you. It says, "There's an unspoken wavelength between them, one that shares an image of the same woman, has a conversation about the weights the elder absorbed too early and can't shake, the guilt the younger harbors for making the other worry in any way." And I think they're trying to be like it's trying to be like poetic and emotional and evocative of, you know, the relationship between two sisters after the mother has died. And I think because none of the rest of the text isn't written as like poetically, it kind of falls short. And I felt that every now and then we dipped into that, and it just throws off the groove a little bit. And it was just a little minor thing, but it was definitely enough for me to notice and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, not that it detracted anything from how delightful the fic was and how like fluffy and cute, and I loved it. You know, it was a good time. What I'm also realizing after I finished reading the fic is I don't think I'm in love with this like pairing, like the Laura Jean Peter Kavinsky like To All the Boys I've Loved Before thing. I was like, I don't know if it's just because I came to the party too late or not, but I'm not like a fan. Also, here's my review of To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Yeah.
I liked the film, but I did not love it, I don't think. And I think part of it is it came out in 2018, and I think I was so shocked by how much it was a fake dating AU. And I think you've told me that, or I read a fic that you sent from this fandom, and I was like, whoa, it's fake dating. But I was shook by how much it was a fake dating AU. The problem is that, to me, I think that there wasn't enough space in the film to really like delve into the like fake dating, like the tension that builds up in a fake dating relationship. I feel like from the get-go, Laura Jean and Peter Kavinsky are like good friends. Like I didn't really buy that they hadn't been friends, or that they hadn't spoken at great length before. They were just so comfortable around each other immediately that I was like, where's the tension? Where's the like I wanna anticipate the kiss at the end. And to me, it felt like they were in love pretty quickly. And I think part of it is that they tried to condense so much of the book into the film, and it's a decent length film. It's an hour and 40 minutes, but it just fell short. And I wonder if I would have enjoyed this more in 2018, because I feel since then we've had quite a few successful and wonderful films that take fan fiction tropes and like execute them like to a T. And so that, I think that's just what I realized is I'm not in love with the pairing. I appreciate it for what it is and what it has done, but it might not be for me.
Yeah, that's all fair. I also feel like I initially loved this movie, and I still think it has a really important place, particularly as a film that centers Asian American women at its core, which
Absolutely.
is very atypical and very sort of rare in a sad way. But the original film is just so centered on this like wonderful mixed race family, and they have this complicated relationship with everybody. Everything is a little complicated, but it's so sort of like loving and wonderful that I think there's real value to this film just in the cultural zeitgeist. But also, did you watch the sequel?
No, and I asked the friend that I was with who had seen the sequel, and she's like, I think it's frustrating, and then she gave me a few points, and I was like, oh yeah, that would be frustrating to me.
Yeah, I feel very similarly, where now that I have seen the sequel, I look back at the original film with a little bit more frustration and a little bit more like, I can kind of see how the original film setup would lead to where they went in the sequel, and it actually sort of like somewhat negatively impacts my reading of Laura Jean and Peter's relationship in the original film, which is fascinating because that's what happens in fan fiction all the time with sequels. That's literally what happened in our last episode where we were like, don't read the sequel.
It's true.
But yeah,
listen,
like
sequels are hard to pull off.
they are, and they also, if you they go back and they color the way that you read the originals too.
Yeah.
Like almost always. They almost always do that. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on this. If I'm honest with you, I picked this very late at night because I needed to pick a fic and send it your way, and I just wanted to revisit this fandom because we hadn't talked about it in a while, and it had changed a little bit, which was kind of fun, and it is sort of interesting. I think it's also, this film reads differently now that we've also had a number of very successful and interesting and culturally relevant Netflix adaptations and Netflix films specifically.
Yeah.
So I remember this being sort of the first that went became really popular, and it went really well.
I agree.
And then there was a series of like not good ones.
Yes, correct.
And then they came back around, and I think they've kind of figured out what their niche is. So it's interesting to me also from the sort of like meta contextual influence of that to like go back to this and be like, yeah, but it's not like, it no longer holds the same weight because when you compare it to something like, for example, Dumplin',
love Dumplin',
which just like absolutely shattered me.
Yeah.
Which you could have a whole conversation about how that actually, like, Dumplin' in general speaks more to my lived experience than To All the Boys I Loved Before did, so that could probably be partially why.
Sure.
But like, you know, when you've had other successful films after this one, like, again, it goes back and it sort of shifts your relationship with it because it's not the only anymore. So you can kind of see it and see its growing pains a little bit more.
Right. I do think that you're right in recognizing that this was a film that shattered that glass ceiling for other films like Dumplin' to come forth. And I think for that, it is very appreciated. And I will say I'm excited. I would like to delve into this fandom a bit more, maybe in a longer form fic, and maybe see if my thoughts would change. But yeah, other than that, I enjoyed myself. I thought this was very cute, very hit the nail on the head about the meeting the parents, despite meeting the family. Because, well, I mean, I guess he met the dad. But even in the film, the dad was kind of, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, he's very white bread, which is fine. I mean,
which makes sense.
Yeah, and it's really about meeting Margot, who is like sister. And I also thought that was kind of interesting, where it's like, it's not meeting the parents, it's actually meeting the family. And like, that dynamic is different than meeting the parents. You know what I mean? Right.
So, very good. I would give this, like, I would say a 2.8 out of 5. If we have to round up, it would be a 3. Though.
You don't have to do anything. We set the rules of this, remember?
I've been doing so I've gotten on Goodreads recently because I'm trying to read a lot more, and I'm doing a decent job at it. But Goodreads doesn't let you do halves.
Oh, rude.
It's like so it's either 3 or 4 or 2 or 3. So that's why I think in my mind I was like, I don't remember if we do 0.5s or 0.8s. So
you should be it should be able to be whatever you want it to be. I mean, that's not how any rating system works, but
you hear that, Goodreads?
Are they owned by Amazon? Are they corporate shills?
I have no clue.
Is that why?
Possibly.
Well, I think they are, and if that case, you know, that's why. It's because Amazon sucks.
True. If
they aren't owned by Amazon, then Goodreads, you have no excuse.
You have some splaining to do. All right.
Yay.
So, Erin, what did I send you?
You sent me a fan fiction.
I did.
Yep, because that's what we talk about. It's called Small Talk on AO3 by author Quaffles, which I'm assuming means they write some Harry Potter too. This is not a Harry Potter fic. This is a Shameless fic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Ian Gallagher and Mickey Milkovich, which of course it is. There isn't really any other major ship out of that show.
There's no other ship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I sense Alan has strong feelings in this regard, but I'm going to keep talking because it's super fun.
Please do.
The summary of this fic says, Ian has a hard time convincing his boyfriend, Mickey, to come over for a Friday night family dinner. And the word boyfriend, like, it ends at boyf with a dash. And then italicized Mickey. Like, it's very careful then to be, like, not boyfriend.
Yep.
Which is real funny. It is a great summary because it absolutely sets everything up in the fewest words possible.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Like, I love that.
It sets the
summary.
tone.
Yeah. Totally sets the tone. Totally rocks. I will confess, I have not seen Shameless, but I have seen every scene between Ian and Mickey in YouTube compilations. There's a 45-minute YouTube video that you can watch that just goes through the whole relationship, and you don't have to watch any of the rest of the show.
Oh my God. I love you so much as a human being.
Thanks.
Here's my relationship with Shameless. My roommate loves to watch TV shows, and she randomly started watching this one night. And so whenever I would go out and make dinner, I would catch like bits of episodes in the living room. This show is so depressing. How do people sit and watch it? Every bit I caught was just devastating, and I hated it.
Yeah.
So I read a lot. I read like the wiki for Ian and Mickey. Yeah. And that's the extent of my knowledge on it.
Yeah. This show has an interesting, I mean, from the like 45 minutes I've watched of it, it's an interesting take on the experience of being both, meeting the intersection of like white poverty and being queer and what mental illness looks like in that situation. And there's a lot of really big issues at play in the show that can get really dark, but also plays as dark humor a lot because there's no other way for this family or these people to get through it other than to just like accept that their lives are a little absurd, and like it's hard to get through some of it because you're like, oh wow, you guys are like objectively miserable.
Yup.
But it's also really real in that sense. Like, people live difficult lives, and this doesn't shy away from a lot of the difficult things that can happen in that situation, which is fun and interesting. And I commend them for actually committing early to an extremely complicated but interesting and given real weight queer relationship on this show.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they are perfect.
No.
Because they are not. But they committed early on that they were going to be real people in a real relationship and taken very seriously from that perspective in a way that a lot of other network shows will not do.
True.
And that's pretty cool. And it also is kind of what we talk about when we're like, we don't want perfect representation, we want good representation. And those are two different things. So when we're talking about, like, you know, they aren't perfect caricatures of perfect queer people who like sit around and wave their pride flags and just like are your like nice queers or whatever. It is an experience of queerness that is authentic and interesting and complex, and they're also slightly terrible people.
Yeah.
Which, you know, queer people can also be slightly terrible. That's a thing that can happen. So
that's very true.
So this fic in particular, I think is set in something of an earlier season because there's some characters in here that I think don't exist in later seasons based on the Wikipedia that I checked, because I was like, I don't know one name in this, and I was like, okay, who is this? But the basic tone of it is that it starts out with Ian talking to Fiona, and Fiona's trying to like fiddle with the gas stove to get it to turn on, and it just like is not, and they're like, well, fuck nuggets. And Fiona's not happy about anything, and Ian's like, well, what's for dinner tomorrow? And Fiona's like, what's it to you? And Ian's like, I was thinking of inviting a friend over. And Fiona kind of like picks up right away that this is a thing. Like, this is a thing with a capital T. Goes to interrogate him, but is interrupted and isn't able to. And Ian kind of just like bolts and like backs out of the conversation. So, and then like immediately the next thing that happens is it cuts to Ian and Mickey fucking in a field, which is like so on brand.
Can I cut in right here? And like really quick, ever since so you told me this a few episodes ago, and then Caitlin told me this when I met her. Where they were like, you were saying you've got to read the tags before reading the fic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a thing you have to do. And I'm like, okay, I'll be better about it now that I know that that's how it's supposed to go. So I read the tags, and the tags are meet the family dinner, mentions of cock and coming, but no graphic sex scenes, angst fluff. And I was like, okay, great. I know what I'm getting myself into. Cut to them fucking in the field. And I was like,
I know.
Excuse me, that's more than mentions of cock and coming. This is a graphic sex scene, but okay.
Yep. I was like, this is not, that tag is inaccurate. Friend quaffles, get your life together. What are you doing?
Friend quaffles.
Yeah, no, for sure. They have like a sex scene, and it's actually taken like what I will say about this entire fic is that from my experience of it, this is taken right from the show. Not that it's an exact like writing out of a scene, it's just that it fits in so seamlessly with like how the show runs and like the point at which they are in this relationship where they're really like fuck buddies, for lack of a better terminology for it, where like Ian clearly gives more of a shit about Mickey than Mickey is able to really give a shit about him, even though Mickey like definitely has feelings but is so repressed and is so fucked up on so many levels that like he's not there yet.
No.
And is just very like, we're keeping it not feelingsy, like I'm not your fucking boyfriend, any of that stuff. And Ian raises the possibility in this particular scene of, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And Mickey's like, whatever. And Ian's like, do you want to come over for dinner? And Ian is expecting like not a horrifically like hell no response, but he's definitely expecting some confusion and probably like a no. But Mickey like flat out laughs at him and is like, what, are you gonna cook me dinner? Are we playing fucking house now? And like all this stuff. He's like really kind of derisive about it, which takes Ian by surprise. Which, having seen that era of their relationship, I'm like, I don't know if you should have been that suppressed in that moment, but okay. I don't have the context, so maybe I shouldn't talk. Basically, Mickey's like, what, am I going to sit down and have a fucking, like, meal where we have, like, small talk with your family? Like, absolutely not. Like, no, we are fuck buddies. That's all it is. And Ian's really mad, like really angry about it, but is like fine, like, and knows internally he has this whole thought process where he was like, Mickey sets the terms of this relationship and I follow, and that's how this is, and if I ask for any more or push any more, I'm going to lose the whole thing. And he's butting up against a lot of anger about being in that situation, but he also doesn't really know what to do about it, so he just kind of like accepts it, but he's pissed and he's like, fine, whatever, like, you don't have to come. And Mickey's like, don't run and cry, what did you think I was gonna say? And Ian kind of tells him off and is like, I thought you were going to be shocked and then consider it. I didn't think you were going to sweep it under the rug. And he just like pieces out. He basically leaves with a flourish of like, maybe I'll save this for when, I find somebody that actually gives a shit about me.
Yeah.
And just kind of pieces out. And he goes back home and is really unhappy, but also is like, I don't want to deal with my feelings, which same, Ian. I understand.
Accurate.
Where you're like, yep. I did make a note where at the very beginning, my first note is, hi, ouchies.
Oh.
Which is where it's like, ow, ouchies. But then my immediate next note is, gentle misogyny, my old friend, how on brand.
Oh no.
Which is kind of the show, right? Like,
sure.
no one is a perfectly good person or whatever. So Ian is, home, and Fiona and Lip are there, and they like, the quote is, Fiona ambushes him when he gets back from the baseball field, eyes worn from holding back tears, parentheses, he may be a gay, but he's not a girl. And I was like, okay, cool. It was just a really, it was a really good way of establishing the internal narratives of these characters and like really understanding them and knowing that like they have complex relationships with identity and like complex relationships with all sorts of things, and they're not perfect, which is like interesting. Like, it's an interesting storytelling device to have complicated characters who are not 100% perfect. So basically Fiona is like, well, I'm cooking a big meal tomorrow, so we on for this thing? And Ian's like, no. And Fiona's like, all right, well, then he doesn't deserve it. He's an asshole. And Ian's all upset. And Lip shows up to try to like try to comfort him. And Ian's like, I don't want this from you. Like, you're supposed to get each other drunk, wingman them into a hookup, and then make fun of each other. And Lip is like, I guess we're gonna have to go out and use our fake IDs to get into gay bars. Ian's like, no, this is not what's happening. So they just kind of like, they leave it at like, Ian does not want emotional support. Like, Ian just wants to be left alone.
Right.
So then the doorbell rings, and it's he runs downstairs, and he's like half out of it, has no idea what's going on, because I think he's like took a nap or whatever. And Mickey's at the door. It's the day after. It's definitely the day after. But Ian was asleep. He was taking a nap, which is why he's confused. Now I understand. And so Mickey shows up at the door, and Ian's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And Mickey's like, what do you think? Get me out of my way so I can have this fucking weird night and just be done with it. And he sits down, and like, he's in the living room, and Ian's just like, huh, fascinating. And does probably the most Ian thing that you could possibly do, which is decide he's gonna like give Mickey some hell in retaliation for being a little fucker. And the kids, so like Debbie and what's the other kid's name? Carl are sitting around and just like whatever, and Mickey sort of like looks at Ian like, don't leave me there, don't leave me with these children, I don't want this. So Ian like smiles and just like leaves him to the dogs, and that's basically exactly what the quote is. So I thought that was funny that there was like some real give and take here that was like very fun. And they have dinner. It does not go well.
Nope. It does not.
Yeah, Fiona's boyfriend, I guess. This was the guy I didn't know. Because he doesn't feature in the story of Ian and Mickey on YouTube 45-minute retrospective. Jimmy basically asks Mickey how many times he's been to juvie. And if you're familiar with the show at all, you'll know that Mickey has been to juvie several times and ends up in and out of jail all the time because he is a very violent offender.
Yup.
And they have this very terse conversation, which Ian is reasonably certain Fiona started. Like, Fiona orchestrated it and just made Jimmy ask the question because she didn't want to seem like the mean person who's being like, hey, so you're gonna go back to juvie, you fucker? But that's basically what Jimmy asks him, and Mickey's like, no, anybody who's been to juvie will tell you that it sucks and I don't want to go back. And Mickey gets all like defensive, and it's a whole thing. But overall, like, it actually doesn't go as bad after that point.
Yeah.
They sort of like back away from that conversation. Fiona seems satisfied, which means like, yeah, of course she orchestrated it. And then the rest of the meal goes pretty smooth. And then after dinner, Ian goes up to Mickey and was like, cool, so that wasn't terrible, I guess. And Mickey's like, yeah, well, I guess it was fine. And Ian's like, thank you for coming. Like, I can't believe you did it, and also it was like really difficult to like show up and do that. And Mickey's like, don't worry about it, I figured if I was going to continue to get late, I better at least try to do one thing that you want me to do, which Ian is like, ooh, the first ever concession. I'm gonna hold on to this with my little grubby hands and hold tight to it. And then they attempt to have sex and are interrupted by Lip, who is deeply traumatized by this experience and pauses a little too long, makes everyone upset, and Mickey runs out of the house without having achieved anything. And Ian's like, well, that happened. And he calls him, and Mickey is like already taken care of his hard-on several times over, says the fic, but then helps Ian through his own, which is sort of funny. And that's where it ends.
It is where it ends.
Yeah, let me see what other notes that I put in here. Was anything fun?
Was anything fun?
With regards to that thing about leaving with the kids, my exact note was, LOL, he leaves him with the kids like a little bastard. And then my last note, which I stand by, is, this is delightful. Well done, team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time with this one. It was fun. I was very grateful to have some background on the relationship and be able to like piece it into the context of their relationship and likely where they were within their arch, because if you are at all familiar with Shameless, you know that their trajectory is very complicated, and they go through significant character development shifts over time. Like Ian ends up having a very real bout of mental health problems related to bipolar disorder, and Mickey ends up taking care of him in a very real way, and like that is a huge shift. So this was clearly before any of that. Like, this is early on when Mickey is still like badass like juvie kid, like and they haven't really settled into that yet. He's probably still, I think he's still going to get married to the weird prostitute lady.
I think so. This was written in 2012. So go back 8 seasons from whatever the current season of Shameless is.
Yeah, so
there's a comment from 2014 that's like, I hope season 5 talks about this.
Yeah.
So presumably this is season 2 or 3.
Yeah, and Mickey definitely has like a horrific relationship with his father that like ends really badly.
Yeah.
And like that has not been concluded yet because there's mentions of his dad in here of being like, yeah, I'm gonna go home and just like, you know, keep my dad away from me or whatever. So like this is a very specific moment in their early relationship that is a fascinating place to drop in. I thought it was super on brand for the show without being a direct translation. I really enjoyed it. I love, as you know by now, I love anything that is angst and fluff. So you picked this with me in mind.
I did.
And yeah, it was a success. I think my only criticism is that the tags were fairly misleading.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think as far as Meet the Family goes, I think it really fulfills the terms of the tag for meeting the family while still being really interesting and really sort of like, like that kind of went well and it kind of didn't, which is a very real thing. So overall, I had a good time.
You know what's interesting, and I'm realizing now, is that we both picked fics in which the family already knows the partner, essentially.
Yep.
You know, some to greater degree than others, but it wasn't like a complete surprise.
Yep. We also picked fics in which they are not meeting the parents.
The parents, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too.
Which is kind of fascinating. So, we kind of wound up in a found family hybrid anyway.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, I mean, do you want to talk about this a little bit before I rate it? Or
I think that everything you said, you know, kind of hit true, and so Ian and Mickey is a relationship that I've been dying to like speak to, and to me I feel like this has a rather strong following. There's a good amount of fan fiction out there, and every now and then I read one and it always absolutely devastates me. And I think part of it is that when I was coming out, when I was a young teenager, I had a fuck buddy essentially for a long time, and he was a little rough around the edges, very Mickey-like, and I think that this relationship just always gets to me in that way, or makes me like nostalgic about that. So I'm happy that we finally talked about it, and I'm glad I found a fic that I think is a good intro to it, especially given where they are in the trajectory of the relationship. And I also want to say that it starts off really rough in the dinner with the question about how many times you've been in juvie, and then it does get better, but it doesn't get good.
Yeah.
It's still very awkward, very weird, still family arguments, and to me it's just hilarious and so in line with what the show is.
Oh, 100% agreed. Yeah. Cool.
What do you rate it?
Thank you. I would give this like a 4.3.
Great. Love it.
Yeah, I had a good time. I kind of want more of this like little like in-depth moment, or this in-depth exploration of what this developing relationship was. But I also really love how much they gave us in this fic. So like, yeah, I do and I don't.
I get that. It's someone who has a very strong grasp of who the characters are and how they would react in situations. Yeah,
it feels very on brand, even for somebody who has only seen a segment of the show, like a very very curated segment of the show. I had a good time. I definitely liked it a lot.
Excellent.
Yay!
Another great tag, another week of great conversation of wonderful fandoms. Yeah, so I guess that's it.
Yeah, these always feel so odd now when we finish the first tag.
I know,
because we're like, wait, what?
And we don't immediately launch into the other one. Yeah,
but
that's
I
really
guess
funny.
This is where we say like Happy Thanksgiving to anyone who celebrates.
Yeah, and
like we recognize that this year is probably really hard for a lot of people, especially like the two of us are in that boat too, and like with COVID cases on the rise, and also Thanksgiving being a complicated holiday for a lot of reasons anyway.
Yeah,
like we're just sending a lot of love out into the universe to anybody who's listening to this, and like I'm trying to give myself some space to be like, this kind of sucks, and that's okay, and like I'm just gonna eat some pie, and like may we all give ourselves space and eat some pie, you know?
I could not have said it better myself.
Yay. That's good.
All right, everyone. As always, please, if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, to rate, to review, share with a friend. What platforms can people listen to this on, Erin?
They can listen to this mostly on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, Stitcher, probably Google Play somewhere. I put us on Amazon Music or Amazon Podcast, but I don't know if that's real yet or not, or if I'm going to get sued for talking about it. I don't know. Yeah.
I think those are...
Anywhere that major podcasts are streamed, we're probably there because I've just added myself to so many. I've
because we are a major podcast.
No, I just put the link everywhere because I was like, free hosting, woohoo, and just like went for it.
And as always, if you've got any fics or tags even that you want us to read and review, there is a Google Doc form that you can find on our Twitter.
Yep.
You can find on our Facebook. You can ask for it on Tumblr.
It's not on the Facebook.
You can ask on Facebook. Find it on Twitter.
Yeah.
For sure it is there.
Just go to Twitter.
Yeah, go to Twitter. And I happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Be kind to yourselves and others.
Yeah. Woohoo. Love you.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.